Blue Jays fans? It's Jay Bird watching here. Special Tuesday night edition, not our normal Wednesday night, for good reason. We can get into that later. But before we get started, I want to get some minor things out of the way. As always, we're brought to you by Stadium Scene, network of podcasts. Actually, check it out tomorrow. The three of us, before we recorded last Wednesday, went on 10 Minutes with ... is the title of the podcast episode with the folks over at Stadium Scene. Really cool folks. Adam, you can go into that a little bit more in a bit. And also, I want to bring up our new Patreon, which I'm going to turn things over to Mr. Borden to tee that up a little bit further. But before we do that, gentlemen, how are we doing this Tuesday night?
Hanging in there.
Wonderful. Brendan or Adam and I are both snowed in.
Yes.
Yeah, I hear it's some crazy snowstorm. I can't say it's snowing here right now, but man, it is cold. Like, this is by far the coldest stretch of the winter that we've had so far, by a lot. But I'm assuming that snow is on its way up here, unfortunately, which sucks.
Maybe.
Seems likely.
Will it get lost in the void of Lake Ontario? Maybe you'll get lucky.
It could, actually. Maybe it'll just make its way down to like Hamilton, Niagara Falls, and just stay over there and not actually fully come across to Toronto and the GTA. But anyways.
More American problems for you. Don't worry about it.
Exactly. We're covered here in the GTA, at least as far as I know. At least here at Thornhill, where I'm based for this episode. But Craig, as I said, I wanted to tee you up for the Patreon little discussion. Recently launched your idea based off of, I believe it was somebody who
collective idea. It was handed to us, like, literally. So
yeah. Run with it.
We had a few fans wondering how they might be able to contribute to the show and get some bonuses or whatever it might be. But right now, the current plan is on patreon.com/birdwatchinggc, just like we are on all of our fun-loving social medias, birdwatchinggc. You can have the opportunity to possibly throw in $5, which is going to be used to, advertise to more Blue Jays fans so we can get more people in our barroom chat here, which we already have a good amount of people in the first few seconds on an off night going on tonight. And then in the midst of that, we are offering a founders package, which is 25 exclusive members to join the team here, basically, and come on for a Blue Jays fandom interview on one of our quick hit episodes. It will literally be dedicated to you if you just donate to that. And that's $10 right now. But like I said, the whole motivation here is to spread the word of our, like I said, our fun chat. We are live every week. We love having everybody here. And make sure you do join those live shows for the people that are tuning in on the podcast. And make sure you join the conversation with Adam, Brendan, and I, and whoever we happen to have on the show. So, fellas, you want to join in on that fun part of the conversation?
Yeah. I think it's a great opportunity for people to get involved. It's a sort of the thing now on the internet to crowdsource, and we are shameless about that. But although we do also appreciate it as well, whatever we can do to get everyone else involved while at the same time helping to keep the lights on for the show, it's a win-win situation. By all means, we're happy to do this free, but we're also happy for a little bit of tips along the way. We're kind of like waiters, we're serving you, so we do appreciate it. And all jokes aside, we would love to have anybody to be part of the show in any way possible. So hopefully that gives you enough incentive to participate. We would love it.
Yeah, I think one thing, and I'll actually tee it right back up to you, Adam, is one thing that I remember we got asked on that Stadium Scene podcast we went on last week is what you think makes this podcast so good. And I think it's how approachable we are on social media. And I think it's also the style in which we conduct this show. Obviously, everybody knows we rotate the hosting spot every single week. And we also have guests on, some of our friends from Jay's Journal and others that we've connected with on Twitter, whether it's Ari, Jason Lee, Hayden Godfrey, any of those guys, Connor Chambers. I just think we conduct ourselves in a really good way. But Adam, why don't you cover that little podcast appearance that we made last week, because you were the hookup into the Stadium Scene network, and it was a fun little chat just to be able to promote the show a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I've been dealing with Stadium Scene since the OG South of the 6 days. So probably since 2017 is when I've been with Stadium Scene, and I know we've mentioned this already on the show, so I'll keep it brief, but I'm really proud of that relationship, and I'm really proud and happy and sort of relieved that is carried over into JBW. So I do think that they as a company, as a brand, as a social media presence, I can't say enough good things. They don't bombard people. They're not, obnoxious with their content. They're straight to the point, and they help us out a lot. And it was an honor personally, and I'm sure I speak for the both of you, to be on that podcast of theirs. 10 minutes with, which ended up probably being about a 25 minutes to a half hour, let's be honest.
It was mostly about your epic beard, just saying.
Yeah. We did talk about the beard, but I will say,
I'm not gonna lie, it's nice that you got the whole handle.
Oh yeah, dude.
It's Ollie Fingers is gonna get jealous.
It's starting to curl. The trick is you do it and then you snap.
There it is.
That's the trick. But I will say that, if you wanted to take a peek behind the curtain of what makes this podcast JBW tick, and how we all came together, and how we feel about podcasting in general, how we feel about podcasting together as a unit, I highly recommend checking that out. There will be a YouTube video stream of it tomorrow, and there will also be a podcast version of it, both of which we will retweet, both of which we will provide for you. But if you wanted to peek behind the curtain for Jay Bird watching, I highly recommend watching and or listening to this. But at the same time, I will say, spoiler alert for the show, we did close it by saying what you see is what you get. So if you're looking for a different sort of personality vibe from us, it's not happening. Literally what you see is what you get in terms of us being genuine. So we hope you enjoy that show.
Absolutely. Craig, did you have any thoughts on that? That was a good time. Nice little way to plug the show a little bit. Any final thoughts before we get into the agenda?
I think it pretty much goes out to say that we're happy to talk with anybody. When you see you and I, Brendan, hadn't met the people over at Stadium Scene officially, so that was a nice little face-to-face. And then honestly, it felt just like we are on this show. Hey, we're having a few beers, goofing around, having a good time, and it works out great. And I really think that that's just what we are trying to cultivate here, and I think that's what has been our fun gathering point for Blue Jays fans so far. And like I said, I can't be happier than what we put together here, and then having them on board, perfect. One last thing I want to say about the Stadium Scene thing, like I said, it's not the Stadium Scene thing, the Patreon thing. Not a cash grab. We are actually trying to offer fun ways for people to get involved.
Yes.
Some of the things that we were talking about doing, and unfortunate with COVID and everything going on, was even like when we had visits and stuff like that, we tell you where we're going to be and you get to come join the party kind of stuff, or whatever kind of things when we're at ball games and things. So it's going to be fun. I really think it's going to be a good way for us to connect with everybody and just get you on the inside and goof around with us and have a good fun time as Blue Jays fans, not just random people we met on the internet.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it any better. Well, let's move on to the agenda. We do have some Blue Jays news to talk about that actually is directly involved the team yet again. They've been busy the last month and a bit. Springer, as we talked about at length, Marcus Semien, we talked about at length last episode. But about an hour after we stopped our live recording last week, Wednesday, the Blue Jays made a trade for lefty Steven Matz from the New York Mets. The Blue Jays gave up 3 arms in that deal. Sean Reed Foley was one who a few people reached out to me knowing from previous podcast episodes, hey, man, are you okay? They traded one of your boys.
What are you doing?
Craig, I know you've talked about him a lot. Yennsy Diaz is another that you were pretty high on who also went to the Mets in this trade. And then I think collectively, we were pretty high on Josh Winkowski, the third name that went to the Mets in that deal. Adam, let's tee this one up with you. What were your initial reactions when you saw Steven Matz was coming to the Blue Jays, but then also the collection of arms that were going back to the New York Mets? What were your first thoughts?
Roll the dice.
Yeah, I mean, it's whatever. At this point, we're looking for major league talent that has been somewhat proven or a little bit more proven than someone like Sean Reed Foley, right? And anything that you can do to solidify, in my opinion, the pen, the better. But at the absolute best case scenario, you may have a 5th starter here. You may. Whether or not that comes into fruition, I think that's a little overambitious. But at the same time, it's good to have that sort of talent ready in waiting if, break in case of emergency type of situation. This is where we're at as a franchise, right? This is what we've been talking about. You're going to have to trade away some sort of prospects or talent in the system in order to get something. Now, by no means does this put a significant dent into the system. By no means does this deprive the Blue Jays of any sort of necessary depth for the future in terms of their prospects, but at the same time, you got to give a little. And I just thought it was a little, I don't know, ironic that the Blue Jays and the Mets of all teams, fighting for Springer at the end of the day, and the Blue Jays come out on top, and you can have that friendly, hey, let's just make a trade to smooth things over kind of thing. I thought that was cool. So, I don't hate it. I don't love it. I'm sort of just, whatever about it. That's really my attitude was just, it's a perfect 5 out of 10 kind of thing, right in the middle.
Craig, what about you?
I'm in a school of thought this is a team trade that actually helps both teams. The Mets are in that ballpark where they're trying to fill up a bullpen, really, I think, especially with the Diaz failed experiment at the end of the bullpen there, and they're just really trying to find arms to last into that. And I don't think they were comfortable with putting Steven Matz as a quote-unquote tradable asset into that bullpen picture, period, perfectly anyways, where with the Blue Jays, he gets a unique opportunity to possibly be one of the guys. This is a guy that a couple seasons ago was really looking like he was trending up, and honestly, it looked like the Mets were very, very high on him, and he was always a top prospect. It looked like he was finally ready to have his coming out party and really just kick into the majors. Amidst of that, 2020 happened, but 2020 has been a nightmare for many pitchers and players and whatnot alike, so I'm not going to go taking that too heavily. Do I think Steven Matz is the godsend the Blue Jays are looking for in the Major League rotation? No, not even close. But this is one thing or the other. I think that he is at least a 4 or 5 guy, potentially.
Yeah.
I don't think he might not be that right this second, but it wouldn't shock me that a change of scenery guy like him come into spring training, work with some of the guys, and next thing you know, he could be really something. For what we gave up, we gave outside of maybe what we were seeing trend up in Josh Winkowski was the other part of this, outside of Diaz and Sean Reed-Foley. Winkowski was trending up really well in the minor league system before 2020. Was really looking like he figured something out with the Lansing Lugnuts. And honestly, if anything comes back to bite us from this trade, it will be Josh Winkowski. I don't know what you're really getting from Yesny Diaz and Sean Reed-Foley, even though, as you mentioned, Brendan, I've been very high on watching the raw talent that Yesny Diaz has. And I've gotten to see him actually pitch live probably about 5 or 6 times. He's got some really good stuff, but he just hasn't been able to take that next step where he really patents down the control, very similar to what Blue Jays fans have gotten used to seeing with Sean Reed-Foley. The funny thing is, it would not shock me that they end up standing out as good stud relievers for the Mets, even maybe as soon as this year. That being said, I will trade relievers for a starting pitcher all day, every day.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to put it. Adam, you summed it up kind of perfectly in terms of my thoughts on it too. 5 out of 10. It's not something that got me excited. It's not something that got me upset, especially when you look at what the Blue Jays gave up. And Craig, you started to allude to it a little bit with Josh Winkowski. So I want to take this angle on it. Let's look at the 3 guys the Blue Jays did give up. Because, as you said, rightly so, Winkowski is probably the one that could come back and bite the Blue Jays the most in this trade. Craig, just some of your thoughts on Winkowski being the minor league guru. What are the Blue Jays giving up in Winkowski? Because he hasn't made it above high A. I think Lansing has been his highest stop, if I'm reading his Fangraphs page right. And he's had some good numbers in low A. He's 22, so he's getting up there a little bit for that age group. But at the end of the day, I think this boils down to the Blue Jays had so many guys of a similar mold to Reed-Foley and Yennsy Diaz, and you can name other guys that fit into that mold, whether it's Zoik or whoever it is, Trent Thornton even could probably fit back into that mold too. It just seems like they got rid of a whole bunch of surplus of stuff that wasn't going to be too special. But you did rightly say, Craig, Winkowski is probably the biggest get for the Mets in this trade. So tell us a little bit about him and what could become of losing him.
I still think, regardless of how well he has been trending up, he's a mid-tier guy for a rotation, 3-4 guy. I don't see him being any. I do think he's going to make it to the majors. But the ceiling for him, who did we trade? Slipping out his name to the Tigers. Oh, Matt Boyd.
Matt Boyd.
I would think Matt Boyd is kind of the ceiling, kind of like character level for Winkowski. I do enjoy watching Matt Boyd still pitch, just saying.
Yeah.
But I think Winkowski's in that mold where he's going to be a guy that gets you with control and pinpoint accuracy more than anything. He's got some good spin on his balls, and he does a very good job of mixing his pitches. He really needs that 4th pitch, I think, to become a standout starter would be the difference. Right now, it's more of a fast curve change guy. And when the curveball is about the same speed as the changeup, it can all of a sudden become a meatball at the major league level. He's got some work to do, but he's young, and like I said, he's got talent. I really would think that the Mets are going to be talking him up pretty good in the next 2-3 years, I would think. So we'll see. But like I said, I think he was going to be the guy that is going to be the piece that we're going to miss out of this all of a sudden. Or all of a sudden he's going to be like, oh, wow, did you see that? Similar to how Matt Boyd ended up being the standout in the David Price trade, where Daniel Norris is looking like a reliever right now.
Right. Adam, I want to get your thoughts on Sean Reed-Foley, because we've seen him at the big league level a few times now. He's had one lengthy stint up here. I think it was at the end of 2018 or the end of 2019. And you know what? He did have some pretty damn good outings with this team when he was actually around in the strike zone. I remember shortly after he got called up, he had that 7-inning, I think it was only like 1 or 2 hits allowed and 10 strikeouts against the Marlins late in the season. And he's also had, I think it was a 5-inning and 10 strikeout performance against the Yankees, I think in 2019 as well. We've seen a lot of Reed-Foley, a guy who has just incredible stuff we've talked about on this podcast, a lightning quick fastball that he can touch 100. He gets anywhere between 98 to 100 miles per hour in his fastball. He does have some decent off-speed stuff, but it was kind of like Aaron Sanchez on steroids, where you just could not hit the strike zone to save your life. So I know we advocated for on this podcast, keep Reed-Foley around and make him a reliever, because his stuff could play up in the bullpen. But Adam, at the end of the day, is Sean Reed-Foley, I don't want to say he's not fixable, because I think anybody, maybe you hear baseball players say this all the time, I just got together with the right coach and the message that he gave me just finally made a click for me. Or this minor mechanical adjustment that maybe the Blue Jays hadn't found in Reed-Foley. Maybe the Mets will find that. Do you think Reed-Foley could become a starter, or is he more destined for the bullpen in your eyes?
No. I think no. I think you hit the nail on the head. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, we were really encouraged and happy with the stuff itself, right? It was the ability and the arm strength was there, but the control was always an issue, always. And he fell victim, much like, a lot of other players fell victim to the seesaw of going up, going down, finagling with where he's going to be, whether he's a starter or a reliever. I don't think the Blue Jays had a clear grasp on that, because a lot of other arms are coming through the system. But I think it was clear at this point that there was no way he was ever going to be part of the starting rotation. I just think that was thrown out the window. I've been an advocate of him sort of turning into a closer if possible, because he does have the speed for it. The problem is, and, obviously you can, point to some anomalies, but more often than not, control is something you can't teach. Location is something you can't teach. You can teach a pitcher like a new sort of how to grip a ball differently, how to maybe add another pitch to his repertoire, but finding and locating your stuff is not something that is teachable. That's just something you either have or you don't. So when it comes to Sean Reed-Foley, I wish him the best. And to me, he's the name in terms of the clout that sticks out the most, I think, when it comes to Blue Jays, unless you're really deep invested into the prospect system. Sean Reed-Foley is the name that pops out the most. And he looks like a diet Brett Laurie anyway.
He does.
Not as much Red Bull.
Yeah. But, he handled himself with class. I don't ever remember hearing an incident about him. And if I do, it sort of slips my mind at this point. But I wish him the best. I don't see anything outside of a reliever role at best. If the Mets can turn him into a closer somehow and he can find it, great. It's very BJ Ryan-esque. Like, he has the stuff, but he just doesn't have the location. If he can find it, great. If he can become that anomaly, great. But do I see this working out in the long haul? Unfortunately, I don't.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there as well. It is tough, and that's why I think a few people have reached out to me on social, as I said earlier, because I believed in him, and the stuff is incredible. And just, I think the way he carried himself on the mound, being a guy who's like super intense and super serious, he's kind of like Ken Giles in that way.
Yeah, you beat me to it. I was going to literally say that.
There's some guy that you do not want to fuck with when you're out there. You don't want to go take the ball from him because he might punch you in the face, or he might punch himself in the face. That's just how amped up he gets on the mound. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think the Blue Jays had enough. It's clear he was not going to be a starter, as you said correctly, Adam. The final piece I want to touch on briefly before we turn it back to the Steven Matz side of things is Yennsy Diaz, because we did see him make just one big league appearance, and it was some very, very random appearance in the middle of the season against the Orioles when the Blue Jays were decimated by injuries or something along those lines, like they were all of 2019, especially in the rotation. But Craig, I'll turn this one back to you. I know you were big on Yennsy Diaz as well. Kind of a guy who I wouldn't say he was at the forefront of the Blue Jays farm system when it came to some of the arms they had, but he was working his way up there. And there's definitely some upside with Yennsy Diaz, and he made it up to Double-A. And I know it was not a very good outing at all, but he did get one little appearance in the big league level for the Blue Jays. Do you think that with Diaz, there's just too many other similar arms with him? And I mentioned some of those earlier, whether it's Zoik, it could be Joey Murray, Winkowski was in that mix, other guys. Was it just they just don't have places for these guys, especially if we don't know what the minor league baseball season is going to be like coming up? What are your thoughts on Diaz?
The biggest thing I thought with Diaz, Blue Jays fans that did see him pitch that 1/3 of an inning, I think is all it ended up amounting to, or something like that. That was not the same Yennsy Diaz I watched for Blue Jays minor league appearances for 2-3 seasons. This guy was cemented in our top 30. He wasn't anywhere near the top, but he was not going anywhere in that countdown. There was very few people that were jumping out in front of him, similar to how Sean Reed-Foley was always on that same list. But Brendan, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's just he's unfortunately lost in that shuffle. And if it came down to me figuring out which one or picking and giving you the crystal ball treatment right now, who actually might have a better chance at being a starter, I would put my money on Yennsy Diaz making the rotation over Sean Reed-Foley.
Right.
And he has a good shot at it. This guy has, when I watched him pitch, the words that I would describe his fastball with is impactful. It just looks like he's throwing a freaking a weight at people. It just and it looks effortless. It's very similar to that ballpark that it doesn't have the 100 miles an hour at Nate Pearson, but it looks as effortless.
Right.
That's what I was really noticing when I got to watch him. I watched him in the same season twice. Once with the Lansing Lugnuts, and then when I was down in Florida, I got to see him pitching with the Dunedin Blue Jays, and I couldn't believe the strides that he made in just jumping levels that one season. This guy's a workhorse, and he's going to find a way, I think, to be in the major league rotation and get a chance to at least prove himself. I don't know how well he'll stick, but he's going to get a shot.
Yeah, it does seem like at the end of the day, I think we're all on the same page with this one. And I think all of Blue Jays fans were. It's why it wasn't like, oh my God, why did we trade one of these 3 arms or anything like that? Because
you traded Joe Piagini? How dare you?
It was a collection of guys who just all bunched up together, and there just might not be homes for them because of the arms that this front office has collected and stockpiled in the minor league system. And I think it was you, Adam, who said this. Or maybe it was Craig, whoever did. You were very right.
It was one of us.
It was one of you guys.
One of them. I guarantee you. It was
Adam or Craig who said.
Roll the tape.
That's the one thing I wish we don't have. We don't have a highlight reel. I can't just go back and forth here. Where's the flag? Jeez.
Or just sound effects where you can be like, what?
That I can probably figure out.
Yeah, probably. But they did not give up anything substantial that would hurt them from making an impactful trade, whether it's for the rest of the offseason or moving forward, maybe at the trade deadline. All the big names are still in the system as of right now. It is possible that a few of those could be dealt for certain guys, but we'll touch on that later. Adam, I want to bring it back to Matz because look, there is some intrigue there. And I'm not going to lie. When I went up and looked up, I was like, so how far removed was he from 2015 and 2016? And did he show some signs of life between now and back then when he was really on the ascent with the Mets? He came up and pitched 6 games in 2015, the same year the Mets went to the World Series, with that incredible rotation that they had of Syndergaard, DeGrom, Matt Harvey was still Batman, and Matz. Matz was the 4th guy. I'm pretty sure he even started a playoff game or 2 for the Mets back in 2015. 2016, he was still very good, a 3.40 ERA. 132 innings. After that, it was injury after injury, followed by an increase in walks, in home runs allowed. So this is a project that Pete Walker is going to have to take on again, very kind of similar to Robbie Ray. When Robbie Ray got here, a guy who had a lot of success with the past team, which was the Diamondbacks for Robbie Ray, a guy who's also a left-hander and walked a lot of guys. But Adam, for you, I think you brought this up when we first talked about Matz. Do you ultimately see him ending up in the bullpen, or can you see him cracking the rotation? Because I think they're kind of hoping for that upside of Matz in fixing him in spring training to open as potentially the 5.
It really depends on what kind of moves they're going to make. As it stands right now, I could see it, and I'm not necessarily super comfortable with it. And I know the narrative I've floated around forever is it's a yeah. What's up?
Is he
What's up?
better than Tanner Roark?
I think so. I
had to say it. Couldn't help it.
No, for sure. And I'm thinking to myself, I've said this a lot. Is there anything bad about a 5th starter? Like, are we really going to nitpick a lot about a 5th starter that's probably just going to pitch 5 innings a game, maybe a little bit more? And then again, that's pretty much all our starters anyway, thanks to Charlie Montoyo. But I digress. I could see it, but I don't think they're done. I don't think they're done adding players, and I think the 5th starter role will be sort of fought for. And again, you mentioned like the beginning 2 years, especially the 2015 and the 16 years. Last year, I don't think that's what we're going to get. I think he's more on the line of the 2018-19, ilk, and which again, if you're putting that in as the 5th starter role, yes, the walks are high, but if we're putting that in as the 5th starter, it's okay, especially with the defense behind him. It's a lot. The home runs are a little concerning, but if he's putting the ball in play with the defense behind him, I don't necessarily hate it. But ideally, I like to see him come out of the pen. If he's showing stuff, if he's showing control, and he's showing that Pete Walker, the touch is having an effect on him, okay, then you can sort of introduce him, maybe even as a 6th starter in case of injury, which will happen anyway. But as of right out of the gate, ideally, I think all Blue Jays fans are anticipating him being in the pen.
Yeah. Craig, what about you? Because I kind of, when I saw this, people brought up the idea of him being a lefty out of the pen, which is definitely possible. And I could see it, especially with assuming there are no more moves, which I don't think is the case, just like you said there, Adam. It'll be a battle right now between him, Roark, and Ross Stripling, probably. And remember, people do got to remember, the Blue Jays paid the most to get Ross Stripling, so they obviously believe in him in some regards. So he may get a little bit longer of a leash to win a job compared to Roark or compared to Steven Matz. But Craig, do you see him more as a lefty out of the bullpen, or can you buy into that upside that he's had from his Mets days to be the 5th starter? Or, I don't want to say it, but depending on what they do with Nate Pearson, if he doesn't crack the rotation, right now Steven Matz could be a 4th starter in this rotation.
Anyway, so my big thing is I live here in Rochester, New York, so we get the Yankees and the Mets games often. And by I mean often, I mean like literally every time they're on. So I've seen enough video on Steven Matz because you know how it is, guys. I get bored after the Blue Jays game's over with or whatever it was, or it's a Saturday afternoon day game. Oh, look, baseball. And I just click the Mets or over the Yankees on. Clearly. Sure. Go Mets. But what I've seen from Steven Matz, there is something to that logic that he could be something still really, really tangible. And way before we were talking about the show, if this rotation does stay as it is right now on paper, the name of the show tonight is Pete Walker. We're going to finally see how good you are, because he's got his plate full right now of who he has got to fix.
Right.
You're talking the same situation with Matz, Robbie Ray, technically Ross Stripling, I'm going to say too, because he's not great, but he's not broken, I guess, where you take the steps. And then all these rookies. There is a collective ridiculous level of right now, the same amount of talent like this with the Toronto Blue Jays pitching.
Yeah.
And outside of Ryu, you don't have that nice little tick right now in the pulse, everybody's about the same. So Pete Walker's going to have to really show with what the metrics and all this fun times that we've been hearing about who's been working with him. And if this is what we are going to be indeed running in with, I would hope that we are getting the Steven Matz that shows up and gets some of this. But from what I'm hearing, his work ethic is awesome. He's looking forward to the new change of pace. And he really is seeing this as a brand new opportunity, and he's going to run with it. And if I'm going to bet on somebody, it's going to be somebody in that situation right now versus somebody that we maybe have had that's kind of comfortable and lingering around our minor leagues, that's hoping for that chance. But as far as everything goes, I think he comes down to that same ballpark where he is on the exact same level as Thomas Hatch, Julian Merriweather, name insert here, sure. Anthony K. that we're going to hopefully just see who. I think they're just going to beat the crap out of each other for those few positions if there is an open spot and of any kind in our rotation. And in all reality, I'm going to bring it up now because I think it fits. One of the questions we've had from our Twitter group here, literally Maine is all his name's going by. So shout out to Maine. Good question.
What up, Maine?
There you go. So he brought up the fact that you think that they're slacking on the signing of a major league arm to slide into this rotation because of all that collective talent?
No.
That is possibly blocking people? Okay.
No. And you know
flat out.
Craig, you brought that up. It kind of actually that flows very well to the next topic, which we can move on to now.
Points.
Yeah. Takeaway points for the question sender. Is it Maine or Maine?
Yeah, Maine. M-A-I-N.
Maine.
That's the one thing I hate about this Twitter, the streaming thing. It doesn't give me the tags on what they are on Twitter. It gives me what their names are. So people, if you want me to plug your Twitter handle or your Facebook page or whatever, make sure you give me that in the chat.
Full address and socials as well, please.
That's right. Absolutely. But yeah, no. Let's move on to the next one because that tees it up perfectly. And yes, Craig, you do get segue points for that. I think it was either Trevor Bauer or Rachel Luba who was the agent for Trevor Bauer. Some Blue Jays fans uncovered that it was one of the two of them posted on their Instagram that things are finally starting to heat up and Bauer's market may be moving a little bit here. We've seen a whole bunch of moves around teams that have been connected to Trevor Bauer. I mean, the Angels just made a trade for Alex Cobb, and I know Alex Cobb isn't up at the level of Trevor Bauer, but at the same time, people are like, oh, that could take the Angels out of it because they also signed, what's-his-face, Quintana a few weeks ago. The Mets, they did free up some money by trading Steven Matz to the Blue Jays, about $5.2 million. The Mets are still in that derby, in that race. The Blue Jays could be as well. It is possible. I don't think it's likely, but it is possible. So really quick, because this is going to start to answer that question that Maine had sent in. Adam, do you think the Blue Jays are still players in Bauer's market? Let's just say he's willing to come back down to a 1 or 2 year deal, maybe even 3. Can the Blue Jays do that, and do you think they would?
No. I mean, do I think they would? Yeah, I think depending on the price. If he's looking for like a $25 million a year for a 1 year deal, I don't see that, especially, it wasn't that the rumor that Tanaka wanted? Is that what
something
he wanted?
Like that. It was
it was something absurd.
Either way, I was like, go back, have fun.
Yeah,
a lot.
I'm sure the Japan Major Leagues will love having you back.
That's what I'm saying. And the Blue Jays balked at that. And obviously Bauer, I would rather have. But I think the longer this goes on, that means he seems like a guy based on the interviews that I've watched and just the videos that he's posted, being so transparent about the process. He's going to wait this out until the best possible offer. And although we like to think that the Blue Jays are, financially flexible, which they should be, I don't know how comfortable they're going to feel about dishing out yet another long-term contract. In fact, we've seen, I think it was Shapiro that said, in terms of the heavy lifting, they're done. So do I see them going after Bauer? Unless it's a really sweet 1 year deal, I don't see it happening. And I think they're just going to wait for that shoe to drop because I think they don't like to close the door on things. If something can work out, they'll do it. But once that shoe drops, and whether he goes to the Angels, the Dodgers, I'm not sure what other clubs are interested in him off the top of my head, but then you'll see these other pitchers, the Odorizzi's, the Walkers, maybe being scooped up, and I think the Blue Jays are just sort of playing the waiting game, which makes me a little uncomfortable. Unrelated to the question, I think they should just go get Walker because I don't think that's going to affect anything they do henceforth anyway. But no, I don't consider them serious players for Bauer. Just to shortly answer your question.
Craig, what about you?
So just to put it out there, I finally figured out the full name. It's the main event 2K. I figured out how this works now.
All right. What up,
so,
man?
Main event 2K. Yeah, there he is. The main event 2K is saying that apparently he wanted $40 million for one season in Tanaka.
Oh, no, hell no. No.
Flat out no.
I believe you. I'm not saying no, you're lying.
Yes,
I'm saying
no to Tanaka.
Yes.
Yeah, not shocked that didn't happen. But I kind of tend to agree with you unless the market is indeed shifting on Bauer, where he becomes that bargain 1 year buy or something like that. There's too many other guys in that ballpark of Walker right now. I think that the Blue Jays are happier taking a risk on. And it was also brought up in the chat this evening on where, if we are going after Walker or grabbing somebody like Paxton, who we might actually prefer. Me personally, Walker worked out great in a Blue Jay uniform, and we didn't get to see enough of him. It was kind of like a tease. I would like to see a little bit more of that, but I'm not going to argue about having Big Maple in this rotation. I just hope the price is right for a bounce-back guy like that.
Right. No, and you know what? This is how this is going to tie back to answer Maine's question. I feel to start answering that question, because it's been a little bit of a ways to get there. I think Bauer is holding up that lower tier market right now, and as soon as he signs, teams are immediately going to turn to a Jake Odorizzi or a Taijuan Walker, and that level. There's been very few from that tier who have signed. I want to say Kevin Gausman and Jose Quintana are among the very few names that have actually signed ahead of Trevor Bauer. So, Craig, with that, you're fully on board with Taijuan Walker coming back. Does Jake Odorizzi intrigue you a little bit? Because there was the suggestion, I think it was Wilner who put this out there, and I know he doesn't work for Sportsnet anymore, but he's obviously still pretty well connected. Wilner expects that they do go after Odorizzi harder than Walker, but if Odorizzi does not come to Toronto, that's when they have Taijuan Walker lined up to come back. So where do you fall on that kind of continuum in terms of where or who would you like to have back more? Would you rather Walker, or would you rather them go for Odorizzi?
The thing I like about Walker is he clearly has already clicked with the Blue Jays clubhouse. I'm not even arguing with it. The fact that you see him and Teoscar Hernandez bantering back and forth on Twitter over stupid things, and he's completely engaged with the Jays Station online, whether it's just he's showing random computer goofing around or his ridiculous meals that he has. It's like he's got sushi every freaking night or something. Yeah. But anyways, so that being said, I'm comfortable, and I don't think it's even a risk at this point. It's just figuring out the money on getting Walker to come back. And after that, I'm sorry to say, I'm thinking Paxton over Odorizzi. There's something about Jake Odorizzi that just doesn't make me very comfortable. I really don't know how to explain it.
Sure.
Because on paper, he's a great pitcher, but just watching him pitch for the Rays and the Twins, I'm like, when's this going to fall off? It just kind of felt like there was something that big piece that would get me excited about somebody with his stuff wasn't there. Because in all reality, he falls into that ballpark as far as if you were going to compare him to a pitching great. He's more of like a Tom Glavine, right, than like a Randy Johnson or a Greg Maddux, or even that matter. He's finding a way to get people out rather than just having the raw stuff to be able to get people out. And that's why at the moment, I would be more inclined to spend money on the stuff in Walker or James Paxton.
Right. I know what you mean, actually, Craig, by saying that about Odorizzi, because whenever he was with the Rays and the few times they faced him with the Twins, it always felt like, why aren't we hitting this guy? Like, he's not spectacular, but he's also not terrible. He's very in the middle of the road. He would be a perfect number 3 in my mind. Adam, you really hyped up Taijuan Walker the last few episodes, and you seem fully on board with him coming back. Do you have Walker over Odorizzi?
Yeah. I think he should be the number 1 pick right now for the Blue Jays in terms of available free agents. And I say that over Bauer in terms of affordability, not talent. I just think it's an easier grab, and that's no disrespect to Walker at all, but it's just, how the market is leveled out right now. I just think that playing the waiting game, unless he has already committed, right? There might be that backdoor whisper of saying, "Hey, I fully intend on returning to the Blue Jays. You let me know the contract details, and we'll make it happen." Unless that's happened, I think the Blue Jays are playing with fire. And it would really, really disappoint me if you see him get scooped up by another team or make a return to Seattle if they, are so inclined to do so. It worries me. Just as a Blue Jays fan, I still have that, sense of anxiety about it. I think they should.
Sure has nothing to do with your other team either.
No.
Really, your fandom's in question? Not the fandom.
No.
I mean, your confidence.
That's what I'm saying. And plus, football's over. When the Bills lose, it's over. It's just nothing. NFL calls the season.
There's no Super Bowl on Sunday.
No, they canceled the season.
That's the day to get drunk and eat chicken wings. I don't even see that. That's to watch like the Wayne's World commercial and stuff like that. That's right.
That's what I'm saying. But yeah, in all seriousness, to me, I think Walker should be the number one pick here of the litter. I tend to disagree about Paxton. It's not that I don't like him as a pitcher. It's just the injury worries me a little bit. Odo has shown that he has that ability. Depending on the price tag, I might be a little bit more confident with, in terms of injury history with him. Depending on how long he wants that contract for. If he's looking for a 3 and the Blue Jays are offering him 2, I say meet in the middle, give him 2 and an option, maybe a mutual option, or we'll see what happens. But yeah, I just think stop pussyfooting around. Just get Walker and let's solidify this rotation because it's in desperate need of doing so.
It is. And you know what? Another thought I had when they got Mats is, if anything, that is the opposite of adding stability to your rotation, where signing Taijuan Walker or Jake Odorizzi adds stability to your rotation. I know Walker has had his injury problems. Odorizzi is not. Odorizzi has stayed healthy for the most part. And the reason why I brought up Wilner and his thoughts on that is because last year, the Blue Jays did offer Odorizzi a pretty decent contract. They did offer him, I think it was just shy of $50 million. So I don't think that interest has gone away. There have been reports that they have been recently connected with Jake Odorizzi. So I think there's still players there. If they don't get him, in my mind, I think that's when they go to Walker. But to your point, Adam, he could be gone by the time there. Maybe there's a team that knows they're out on Odorizzi or Paxton. And it's like, okay, Taijuan Walker's still there. Let's go grab him before the Blue Jays do or anybody else. So it's going to be interesting to see how they fill this out, guys. It really is. Any final thoughts on Bauer or any of those guys that we talked about? Because I'm going to pull a topic out of nowhere on you guys. I know we have the agenda, but there's some interesting chatter going on Twitter right now.
So that biggest note, I think they are going to miss out on Walker if they don't strike. I really think as far as that market that we were just talking about, outside of Bauer, he is the most consistent guy with the highest upside still.
Yeah.
I really think that's what it comes down to.
Right. No, yeah, I think you're right, Craig. So, yeah, I'm going to pull out a topic kind of just based on what I've seen on Twitter, just going and scrolling around, guys. And this is going to be, I'll tee this one up by starting with Marcus Semien had his interview with the Blue Jays media today. And one of his quotes was, Nicholson Smith teased this tweet up by saying, Marcus Semien sees Blue Jays young team as a contender even without the playoffs. And Simeon's quote was, now it's go time. They're still working on some things, trying to add some pieces. And this is lining up with something Jeff Blair said on his radio show today on Sportsnet, that it could be an interesting week for the Blue Jays. And now Ben Turner, at BenTurn22, who's a part of Blue Jays Twitter, has dug up on Tim and Sid today. They quoted at the end of their recording, it could be a very interesting week for the Blue Jays from what we're hearing. So it seems like there is some stuff being worked on, and that adds up with what Marcus Semien said in his introductory press conference with the media today. Craig, let me start with you. If there is some smoke to this, which it seems like there is, it seems like something is being built up, and to me that indicates a potential trade with somebody. Maybe that's Chris Bryant. I know we talked about him in the past. Maybe they're talking to the Reds about Suarez or Castillo. When you hear those quotes from Semien and then three, I guess you can count them as two, Tim and Sid and Jeff Blair, two big Toronto sports media outlets, guys who host their shows that are Rogers employees. What do you think could be happening here? Because this could tie back into the pitching discussion as well.
Are they going to get fired in like 5 seconds, just like Wilner for outing everybody? I'll believe it when I see it. I think they've already thrown a lot of money around it. If anything, I would think it would be, if they are indeed really going to have something to announce, it makes more sense to me that it would be signing Walker or something rather than announcing a trade if they're, thinking they're really that close on something. So, my opinion.
Adam?
Yeah, you can probably sense a level of excitement when it comes to someone like Walker, saying, we're seeing all these guys getting scooped up. The hype of the Blue Jays is at an all-time high right now. I would really like to be a part of this. And again, reflecting back at that possible whisper in the back door saying, hey, I want to be part of this team. Just let me know. He might be getting antsy and saying, let's just get it done. Let's just, we'll work something out. If that's what's going to happen this week, that's great. My sense is, though, if they're hyping it up, it might be a little bit bigger. And again, that's no disrespect to Walker at all.
Yeah.
Are we sure it's specifically a signing, or could we be talking trade route?
It wouldn't shock me.
I think my guess would be trade from some of those quotes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So if it's a trade route, I don't know what we'd be talking about there, but I mean, given the fact that Arenado just left, we could throw that out the window.
According to the Rockies, Trevor Story's untouchable.
Which is fine. We have our infielder now that we wanted to get to, solidify that. I don't know. Maybe we can be calling the Reds. Who knows?
Yeah. That's where my mind instantly went when I started seeing some of those people tweet and dig up those quotes, is that there is a trade in the works. And it could be something that surprises us as Blue Jays fans, whether it's somebody being subtracted from the big league roster, maybe them moving a big prospect, something they haven't done quite yet. I think if all that's adding up with what Simeon said, and now Jeff Blair and Tim and Sid too, it does seem like there's some smoke. And I would keep your eyes on Twitter for the remainder of the week. And the funny thing is, 2 weeks ago, was it 2 weeks ago that it was Springer and last week it was Simeon? Or was that, I guess, 3 weeks ago and 2 weeks ago on Tuesday? It's been transaction Tuesday, other than the Mets trade week Wednesday. And
so we're a day early is what you're saying.
Yeah, you never know. Probably just like the Mets trade happened, as soon as we hopped off, pretty much, watch a massive trade is going to come through, and we're going to be like, "Holy shit! Why couldn't
show? Might as well jump right back on."
As well.
If something crazy happens, I'm not
quick hit
to that.
There you go.
Yeah, quick hit.
You're just going to pop a few extra beers during your move tomorrow. Don't worry about it.
Exactly. But yeah, no, that's it's just, I saw that on Twitter. I wanted to bring it up because I'm sure some of our listeners tonight are also on Twitter. So drag your attention over to some of those quotes, and at Ben Turner, Brendan Kuhn, the guy who did break the Springer signing. Those are the guys that I would be tuned into as this kind of stuff continues to maybe heat up a little bit. I did have one more topic on the agenda. I know we are getting close to our usual hour 10 mark ish. Do you guys want to go into the current state of the Blue Jays rotation and maybe make some quick hit predictions?
Sure.
If things stayed the way they were right now, and this is excluding a signing of Walker or a signing of Odorizzi or a trade, just from what you see on the Blue Jays depth chart currently, Craig, what would your starting rotation be? And on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident would you be in that rotation breaking camp with?
Right now, unfortunately, number 5, I have Roark, and that's what scares me the most about this whole thing. I'm praying, if our paper stays like it is right now, that we have a dark horse candidate come out of nowhere and just be the Cinderella story of frickin' spring training and really run with it. I would love to see Patrick Murphy run away with a 5th starter's job, for example, because he was just lights out before. Like, oh yeah, by the way, your pitching or your windup is illegal. Get back to the drawing board.
Oh, yeah.
I watched him that season with that quote unquote illegal step in his thing, and I couldn't believe it. I'm like, really? That's what we're doing? It's not to, what was that pitcher for the Pirates that was like hop skipping and jumping?
Oh,
he was
Carter Caps.
Yes. It's not like he was Carter capsing. So it was just that he was getting a little extra of a slide off of his, rubber jump, basically. And he was landing a little further than where, you would typically land. So, but I'm praying to God that we get something like that. I would rather run with a hot hand out of spring training in the 5th spot than watch Tanner Roark eat any more innings up at all for Blue Jays baseball. If anything, he's a guy in the bullpen for me right now. So it'll be like Ryu. Then you're going to have a mix of either Stripling or Robbie Ray. And then Nate Pearson, I would want to make him comfortable and put him at 4, I would think, just so he doesn't have to be the guy after Ryu. As much as I would love to see him that is a beautiful mix at the top of a rotation, watching Ryu just come out there and throw the flutters like he does and knows how to get people out, and then watch Nate Pearson come in the next day and just blow people away. That is a really big, weird, screwy timing mechanism for a major league rotation, but I don't see that being the way the metric Smiths are going to want to do that right out of spring training with Nate Pearson. It just doesn't make sense, I don't think. Make him comfy. Don't put him on that rush responsibility. It could be the same thing as what unfortunately happened to Roy Halladay at the beginning of his career if you throw him up too high. So, and I don't want to see Nate Pearson have those growing pains. I really think his stuff is going to carry one way or the other. But there is going to be growing pains just like any other young kid. So get ready for it, and you might as well have that in the 4th spot and maybe even the 5th if you can find something. Like I said, I would almost rather take a career minor league veteran guy, especially somebody that's been through as much stuff as like Patrick Murphy, even Ryan Barucki, stretch him back out. I would rather see somebody like that than give Nate Pearson the benefit of the doubt to be somewhere near the bottom of the rotation and just be comfy. Like I said, if he throws me 150 innings this year, that's going to be still asking for a lot. You know, this guy hasn't pitched more than 20 innings in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
And then in the last few years, they haven't gotten a chance to build his arm up because of freak accidents and stuff with the one leg injury. And what was the other thing last year? It was a lat or something like that. He couldn't really get back off of the bench from. Yeah. I just want, like I said, make him comfy. Don't make him feel like he has to go out there and have the weight on his shoulders to the point where he has to throw 110 every game. So, but that's my rotation.
Adam, what about you?
Are we sure Chatwood's not going to be a part of this?
I honestly love to see him give a chance.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing him at a 4 spot. So obviously Ryu's going to be your 1. What was that?
Speaking of people to fix.
Yeah.
Chatwood was the guy that was really trending up with the Rockies, and then that kind of got derailed once he got the free agent contract with the Cubs.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Walker's in for a long spring training. Pete Walker, that is. So yeah, Ryu would be obviously your 1. I would probably put, as of right now, Ray at 2, and a lot of this has the reasons that you just said, Craig, about Pearson. You want to make him comfortable. That being said, it wouldn't surprise me if Pearson was the 3 just out of necessity if they don't sign anybody rather. But if they want to go super bold, you could put Chatwood there if they're comfortable with it. Then put Pearson at the 4, and then have someone battle like a Matz or a Roark at the end, or a Stripling for the 5. I mean, it would be amazing if they can get 2 pitchers and have Pearson at the 5. Yeah. Nothing would please me more, because then the pressure is off. You don't have to worry about him. You can limit his innings at that point and have a decent excuse for it. Because let's face it, he was ill prepared last year. He probably should have played at least a half season in AAA.
Not to mention a real spring training.
Yeah.
Real innings at the beginning.
Right. And so ideally that would be great. My sense is that they're only going to sign 1 pitcher, and maybe, you get a straggler towards the start or middle of spring training just to see what's going on, maybe a trade or 2. But that's how I see it. And again, a lot of these things are going to fluctuate. And at the end of the day, once you go through the first 5, it doesn't matter at that point. Like, what does it matter? It's a toss up, unless you're the number 1 like Ryu. It doesn't matter. And I assume he'll probably get a rest day in between or something. So that's how I see it playing out at this point.
Yeah, I'm very similar to you guys. Obviously, Ryu's number 1 at this point. And just because he's a lefty starting, I'm not sure how much they care about breaking up the lefties and the righties. So with that, I would go Ryu because he's a soft tosser, followed with the velocity in Nate Pearson. And because he's a righty, go back to a lefty and Robbie Ray, flip the lineup around. Then probably another righty, so maybe it's Tanner Roark, or I don't know what the injury status with Trent Thornton was, but he's still out there. And I know that he did not have himself a very good season, but the season before, there was a lot of intrigue with Trent Thornton. So I don't know if he's coming in healthy. I think he's more destined for AAA, to be honest with you, for some depth, or he could be used potentially as a trade piece because he's shown that before in the past. So I'm going to leave him out of the discussion. I'm going to go Ryu, Pearson, Ray, Roark, and Matz. if there were no other moves made today. And then you go lefty, righty, lefty, righty, lefty. But yeah, I am hopeful for some moves, guys. I really am. Maybe we can.
In summary.
Yeah, in summary, there's still some moves to be made. And with that, before we, Craig, before I turn it over to you for any final audience questions or anything like that, Scott Mitchell did reply to the guy I keep on bringing up, Ben Turner, who's on it and always asking Blue Jays beat writers questions. Ben Turner asked Scott, I got to ask, are we in for an interesting Jays week? As Tim and Sid alluded to at the end of their show today, Blair has also been hinting at a Blue Jays related move this week. Thanks, man. And Scott Mitchell replied, they're not done. That's all I'll say for now. There are a few possibilities out there via different acquisition routes. So free agency, trade, whatever it is, stay glued to your Twitters. It does seem like something is boiling in the front office right now, and we probably will have something to talk about on that front, I would guess, for next week.
Right.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Exactly. But Craig, any other audience questions come in the midst of those discussions?
Yeah, so I got an intriguing one that ends up turning into usually one of our pre-spring training shows. So I think we're going to do a preview here. So basically, the question boils down to is how do you think the Blue Jays offense for the infield, specifically first, second, short, and third, stacks up against the New York Yankees? Right now, guys, do you really think Luke Voigt's going to continue being Luke Voigt? Would be my biggest question for the Yankees.
Yeah,
I know they gave him a brick of money.
I think a lot of stock in Luke Voigt continuing what he did this past year.
Gleyber Torres bouncing back. DJ LeMahieu continuing to be Le Machine, which, by the way, that nickname just pisses me off because there's only one machine. It's Albert fucking Pujols.
Yeah.
Yankee fans.
You know what, Craig? Just to answer that with the Yankees, I wouldn't be opposed to tabling that and doing a very similar episode that we did last year around this time, which was comparing the Blue Jays with the Red Sox. I would now do it with the Blue Jays and the Yankees and go around the diamond and have that maybe as a show during the middle of spring training or right before that started. So I'm going to save
an answer preview right now.
Yeah, that's all I'll say is I think we're at that level where we can move on and graduate from comparing with the Red Sox, who have done not a whole lot of nothing, and start comparing ourselves with the Yankees.
I'll play ball. Hold on, I'll play ball real quick. Who's our first baseman? Is it Rowdy?
That would be Rowdy or Vladdy at this point, right?
Yeah, one of those two.
Are we seeing Rowdy at first and Vladdy at third? We'll just.
I guess what you got to assume right now until we have a real third baseman, unless your boy is officially third base.
I hope not. I sincerely hope not. But let's assume that. I don't know that Rowdy at this point. I know he finished hot, but I got to see more. So at this point, I'm gonna give the edge to Voigt. At second, just the hitting alone, I'll give the edge to DJ. Short, I'll give it to Bo over Torres. And third, Vladdy over Gio. That's tough.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see at the end of the year how that plays out.
Maybe it's just because I saw Gio play in a fucking Blue Jay uniform. I have zero confidence in that guy continuing to do anything.
I just got to see it. I have to see it from Vlad, though. That's the thing. I think Vlad has more talent, obviously. I think he's inherently gifted more than Gio. But, I mean, who would you rather had last year?
Vlad,
I think, just because he won. And his final was, 278? Gio didn't look like he did the year before last season.
No, Gio's done it once. Vlad still has a potential. I don't know. That's tough.
I'm saying for that year, not for this
season?
In the long haul. Yeah.
Over the
I have to look at his
stat. Yeah, probably Gio. Just based on what he did in 19, I would have taken him going into 2020 from what we saw from Vlad in 19. Yeah, that's tough.
I just got to see it from Vlad. I think Vlad can do it, and all indications are that he's slimming up and he's getting serious about his game. And if he can play at that elite level, or at least, show signs of it more consistent, then of course you'll go Vlad over that. But, even if we give Vlad the edge there, just based on, potential alone and the ceiling, it seems split, or maybe the Yankees have a slight edge with the infield.
Gio has more defense, but I'm sorry to say, guys, 2021, Gio Urshela is going to look like a fucking footnote to Vlad Jr.
Okay. Put it this way.
Just
Also,
saying.
if we're talking the full infield, and this may be shocking, but maybe not, I'll take Jansen over Sanchez.
I would too, 100%.
Yeah.
Because right now on statistics, I would say they look exactly the fucking same, except that Danny Jansen can actually play his position.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's I think that's a very good podcast episode to do, guys. Maybe one week.
Oh, it's gonna happen.
It has to. And
I already made a note. It's right there.
Oh, you know what Craig's next episode is?
That's not next episode. Too many things can change between now and spring training.
That's true.
Spring training
that's true. This potential trade or move that everybody's alluding to could be for Adam's episode. It could be for your episode. Could be my turn again for that episode. Who knows? It's possible.
I did want to mention one thing though, because I don't know if you guys saw, but apparently the Major League Baseball Network did their top 10 at the position now thing. Apparently Kevin Biggio was the 5th best second baseman in all of baseball. Yep. Just saying.
Yep.
They didn't have Marcus Semien on that list because he qualifies as a shortstop, but he was pretty high on that. I think he was number 8 on that list, and that's saying something.
Man, Keith Law has some sort of hate for that guy. Like, my goodness, I don't know what it is, but Keith Law was saying on his live thing on The Athletic the other day, he doesn't think Kevin Biggio is even an MLB level player right now.
Oh, fuck off.
That's not me.
Well,
yeah. I know.
I haven't agreed with much of his prospect stuff in the last 3-4 years anyways, so I guess I'll chalk that up to he doesn't know what he's doing. He's getting old.
It's because he's upset at the organization for letting him go all those years ago. He has a hate out to the Blue Jays organization for letting him go from that job that he had with them. That's what it is.
Anywho, it is what it is.
It is what it is, guys. Well, this has been fun. A lot pitching heavy for sure, and that's really been the news of the last week with Steven Matz coming on board and making some moves. And look, I still think they're not done. I think Scott Mitchell is right. I do believe we'll see another addition, maybe hopefully 2, as we've all said the last few weeks as we went through and did our very quick rotation prediction. I think everybody feels that way. Any other final comments or thoughts before we give it a 2 claps and a Ric Flair?
No, I'm good. Tank's empty.
I hope your rumors are right.
Yes, let's hope.
I want a pitching, damn it. But I do think that Pete Walker, regardless of what happens in the next few weeks before spring training, he's got a heck of a freaking job to do this spring training with the collective to figure out what is going on with all these arms and quote unquote fix and prep.
Yeah, he definitely does have a job to do. We'll monitor that as the season goes along. Well, gentlemen, let's end it the way we normally do and say goodbye to everybody. 2 claps from Ric Flair. Ready? Woo!
Woo! Let's go, Blue.